Crystal Tower information, Whiskey 21530 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Hazardous weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Nancy 53 on Overtime, Roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Archer 71143, flying flag, runway 28 left, quick takeoff, left hand southbound.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, every flight.
Welcome, everybody, to the Flying Midwest podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Andrew, known around here as the Badger Pilot, joined by, who should go first? Jim. Jim, how are you?
I'm great. I changed my tag on the studio to say the Incredible
I'm
Jim.
sorry.
I'd appreciate it if
I'm
you'd address
joined
me
by
as that.
the Incredible Jim. Jim, what makes you so incredible tonight?
I mean, all of the things. I'm surprised you need to
all
ask.
the things.
Yeah, that should be obvious.
I don't need to ask because I talk to you all the time. But for the listening audience who only gets to hear from you once every other week or so.
I just felt spicy when I typed out my name. It's been 3 weeks. But
Okay.
I just needed a boost of my self-confidence, okay?
You've accumulated that much incredibleness in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Totally a thing.
Yes, there you go.
Totally a thing.
And Maddie, who has only identified herself on the screen as Maddie, but you're doing some incredible things right now, Maddie. What's going on?
I think before we get into this news, there's one very important... I want to get into something before we talk about her news.
I can't even say hi to the people. Gosh, Jim.
Okay, fine. Say hello, and then I got a thing.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm an afterthought.
Okay, we're going to start over. Ready? Welcome, everybody, to the Flying Midwest podcast. I'm Andrew. Hey, Maddie, how's it going?
Sorry. Everything's going great. Thanks for
All right.
asking.
Awesome. And Jim, it looks like you're incredible, so let's
I am.
keep moving.
Appreciate you noticing.
All right.
But before we go one more second, I do want to address this. So I'm going to do it in the form of a song.
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong. Can you tell which thing is not like the other by the time I finish this song?
Well, I wonder if our guests, if our listeners have figured it out.
God. What in the good gosh darn?
Well, one of us doesn't live in the Midwest anymore, so one of these things is not like the
You
others.
outed me. How dare you?
For good reason.
I know. It is with a heavy heart and much sorrow that I must declare I no longer live in the Midwest. Aww. You guys can cry if you need to. It's okay.
I'm good.
Oh, okay. You've gotten over it. So in a very spontaneous fashion, emphasis on spontaneous, holy buckets, within a week and a half, I had uprooted myself from Wichita, Kansas, and planted myself in Charlotte, North Carolina. So that is where I now reside. Very fun. We love it.
Because why?
Because why? Because Maddie got a job.
Maddie got a job.
Maddie got a job. Yay!
That's fantastic. Please say more words about that.
That's awesome.
Maddie got a job flying a jet.
That was very abrupt.
It was hilarious. So I work with a company, and Jason, if you're watching this, I am so sorry for the goofiness you are about to witness. Jason's my chief. I work for a company called Da Vinci Jets, which does managed 135 operations. So I have the privilege of flying a very beautiful Nextant 400, which is a fancy beach jet. And I am
fancy.
It is. It's very fancy. It's got upgraded avionics. It's got little winglets. It's got big engines. Well, big engines. It's got little bitty, but still bigger than the original engines. It's a little bitty airplane. It's very cute. Very noisy. But very fun. So I actually get to fly for real. I have, as I got calculated earlier today, I have 330 hours in the simulator. So now I get to fly it for real.
Wow, nice.
That's awesome.
So it's just an upgraded version of the airplane that I was flying at flight safety, or flying in the sim. So I'm super excited to actually fly for real.
We're super excited for you. This has been a long time coming. I know how hard you've worked on this over the last, the whole run of this podcast. You've been building hours towards this. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. And for our listening audience that might not know what Part 135 means, can you give the Cliff Notes 10-second rundown?
So there are different operating parts. So let's be an instructor about this. So there are different parts of the federal aviation regulations that you can operate under. There's Part 91, which is private. So if you ever fly a small airplane, like Badger and Jim and I and Alyssa, we all fly Part 91 operations. It's just general aviation operations. So I may be doing a little bit of that for the actual owners of the airplane, but this is neither here nor there. With 135, it is basically, if you think charter, that's 135. So it's on-demand operations. It's not 121. Part 121 is airline. That's scheduled airline operations. So that's your United, Delta, them. So Part 135 is kind of like an intermediary almost. So it's more regulated. There's a lot of stuff you've got to do. I have to take a bunch of courses, and that's what I've been doing the last week. Yeehaw. Bunch of computer-based training, everybody's favorite.
Nobody's favorite.
Nobody's favorite. I've had a terrible time. But it's more regulated. There's more rules and regulations, but there's a lot more freedoms to do certain operations. So like different like takeoff minimums and landing minimums and stuff can sometimes change based on the operations, but it is more regulated than a Part 91 rest rules and stuff like that. So it is what I wanted to get on with. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, I have one captain that I get to fly with. We're a 2-pilot crew, and we're the only 2 pilots on this airplane. So it's just me and another gal, actually. Her name is Kit, and I hope she doesn't care that I said her name. But yeah, she's super rad. Well, my captain, I will heretofore refer to her as my captain. She's rad. She's super nice, and I'm going to be bugging the absolute living daylights out of her for the next however long we fly together. So, yeah, super excited. I'm loving Charlotte so far. It has rained so much since I've been here. Like, more days than not, it has been raining, which honestly, love. Because it rained about like 3 times last year, I feel like, in Wichita. So, that was getting a little annoying. But yeah, that's my life update. Pretty big one.
That is a big update.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry that I outed you about not living in the Midwest and did it through song, but I couldn't help myself.
So, at least it was an interpretive dance. You were forgiven.
I did it in my head. The interpretive dance. That's for nobody else but me. I will also say that's part of the reason why we've been off of the podcasting airwaves for the last 3 weeks is Maddie's been in the middle of moving. I've been stupid busy at work, and we just haven't had time to get together. So I'm glad that this worked out tonight for us to not only do this, but interview our great guest, Alyssa, and it's going to be an exciting episode. So thanks for waiting. Should I share some additional news about something that I got in the mail literally as we were recording the interview?
Yes.
Remember that one time I said that I was going to take all the merchandise off our website and then redo it with another manufacturer?
Yes.
So I did it, and a bunch of the test stuff showed up. This could either be really cool or it could be complete disaster, and it could really suck the quality of the stuff. So I'm going to unbox this stuff on the recording, and then we can see if we think it sucks or not.
I love it. Let's do it.
I mean, we can see how great the merchandise is that we're going to push out to our great listeners so that they can get cool stuff.
Perfect for an audio
format. I know, right? But we'll know what it looks like, and then it'll be on the website, and then people will go to the website.
That would be super great. I really need to get my designs done. I'm so
The problem is that as I throw stuff on my desk, it's going to make noise.
That's okay. Just ASMR, crinkle the packaging a lot.
All right, so admittedly, some of these things, I kind of am, but some of these things are for other brands within this fun and exciting space. So I'm just going to put that out there first. But I just wanted to see what the quality of this stuff was. So, hat first.
Hat.
This is for the old YouTube channel.
Okay.
Is it backwards for you guys, or can you
No.
see it right?
Is it embroidered?
No, it's
It
I
is
see right here.
embroidered. So, and it
That looks
actually
great.
looks pretty good.
That looks really good.
Yeah. I tried to do this with our logo for Flying Midwest, and it didn't like it because there's too many colors and too many small shapes and lines with the states drawn in there. So I might have to revisit that, but I'd like to do something with our logo on a hat where it's kind of like this fun little
That'd be great.
trucker style hat with a logo on the front.
Can we get like a not trucker style hat? They're like my least favorite.
What do you want? What is your favorite?
Any other hat that's not
Literally
trucker
any
style.
other hat?
Literally any other hat. Like bucket hat. Do they do bucket hats?
hat.
That would be
I don't know
cute.
if
I would
that's-
wear that.
Ooh, there you go.
Or just
All
like a
right,
normal cap.
I will admit this is not what Alyssa wanted me to do with these shirts, because I did ask for feedback in the Discord, and I just for a sample, I ordered this before she gave that feedback. But this is kind of like the banner on our website. Oh God, now I can't see me. And
We
I'm
don't need to
bumping
see you.
things and
No one's seeing anything. It's audio.
but you guys can see it. All right, so from the banner from our website, that's what that is.
Okay.
I also did a version that is actually going to go on the website that is the different logos and then the Flying Midwest Media that doesn't have this cloud background on it.
Okay.
So, quality-wise, I think it looks pretty good.
Awesome.
It looks, and the shirt I'm wearing right now is the old style with the Flying Midwest, and
I recognize that.
I don't know. I think it turned out really well with the
Sweet.
screen printing and whatnot that they do on here.
Nice.
It's neat.
Neat.
I'm being a nerd. And then the next one's just for that other, for the YouTube channel of the larger logo of the add-on.
Oh, but that one actually, that looks good though. It looks really comfy. That shirt.
That looks really good. Yeah.
And I like the shirt feels good. It's a different brand of t-shirt, so hopefully it'll all work out well.
Nice.
There we go. So those are some samples.
So is this stuff available on the merch page now?
Those items specifically are. So the stuff for the YouTube channel, actually, there's shirts for pretty much all the different brands under Flying Midwest Media in there. So there's Badger Pilot shirts, there's this podcast, Fly the Transition, Aero Exploration. Those are all on the website now, so that is up and live. The only thing that I still need to add on there is the Flying Midwest hat. So
Okay.
And then any other cool merch that we might come up with based on comments and thoughts and jokes within, I don't know, maybe this interview that we did and other fun things that we could do with merch. Because someone had spoiler alert, someone had the great idea of taking some of the unpopular opinions and making t-shirts out of them. So that's totally going to be a thing. And if you would like to piss off half of AirVenture, you can get one too and wear it and just make as many people upset as you want.
I'm so hyped.
Awesome. There's some cool ideas, but
I'm so excited.
we'll get to that later. So, any other news we got going on with the three of us? Any other happenings?
I am maybe finally to the point where I'm starting to think about scheduling my commercial check.
No kidding.
Nice.
Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you?
So
Well,
we're getting close.
have you taught all the maneuvers to yourself and done your own endorsements? Because you can't do that.
No, I have been flying with an
Okay,
instructor. I've been getting some awesome help, not just from my instructor, but from another instructor, DPE, actually in the online space, who's been grilling me on some into the weeds stuff that hopefully I don't talk myself into that rabbit hole during a check ride.
answer the question.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Good for you.
So that's not really news, but
No, that's
You just might have a chance to beat me to CFI
I don't know.
for like 2 years.
Jeez. That's all right.
Well, should we get into some news?
Probably.
Okay. Whoever's first, have at it.
I think that would be me. Okay.
All of the news.
No, just select portions of the news. Okay. Do you own a Cessna Beechcraft or Hawker airplane? If so, Textron wants to hear from you for a volunteer position. So
Whoa. Did you say a Beechcraft?
I did. Did I say beach jet by
I
accident?
do own a beach. No, I do
Oh,
say
okay.
I do own a Beechcraft.
Okay. Well,
I
then
have
you
one
can.
of those. It doesn't have an engine. It's a big glider. Okay. I'm really excited now, though. You got my attention.
Okay. Great. I'm glad my hook was good. So if you are interested in the middle of June of this year, we have the Special Olympics in Minneapolis. So Textron is actually calling on owners of the aircraft that they produce to volunteer for the 9th Special Olympics Airlift. So this is basically a volunteer position where you can ferry those who are participating in the Special Olympics along with their families and coaches to STP, which is St. Paul Downtown, Holman Field, from wherever they are. And this is for June 19th, which is the incoming, so when they're going to start, and then June 27th when they're going back home. It would be super, super cool if you do have an aircraft and you are willing to participate. I don't think you actually have to have a Textron aircraft to volunteer. I don't think they would say no. I think Textron is just asking that you would. So if you are interested in helping shuttle these awesome athletes from their homes to Minneapolis, get involved with the Special Olympics Airlift. So this is actually a scheduled event. Participating airlift aircraft will depart Sierra Tango Papa every 3 minutes for 10 hours, both incoming and outgoing on the 19th and the 27th of June, which is crazy. So this is actually in collaboration with the FAA and actually Signature Aviation, an FBO. That is, I think they're global. So if you're interested in that, please go search that out and go volunteer for the Special Olympics. How awesome is that? Over to you, Badger.
All right, we're heading out to North Dakota, where the legislature there has approved a bill to establish a new entity at the University of North Dakota. The bill will combine forces with the flight school and the mental health schools at UND, combining specifically the UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences, Student Health Services, and University Counseling Center. As we all are well aware and have talked about many times in this podcast, mental health and aviation, and specifically with pilots, is a hot topic issue right now. We all know the struggles for pilots that need or want mental health counseling, but can't get it for fear of losing their medical. So UND now is combining some of their schools for this new program, which will provide mental health support and Federal Aviation Administration medical certification assistance for pilots and aviation professionals all across the state that are looking for some help with mental health. This particular initiative is fairly personal to UND, as they had a past mental health incident that brought mental health and aviation more to the forefront of the talks. And so the goal with this new program is to provide mental health resources and assistance to help obtain medical certification, to cooperate with the FAA and aerospace medicine, and of course, help pilots and aviation professionals have support and access to mental health resources, HIMSS, AMEs, who we've talked about in a previous episode, and overall just sort of bridge that gap between pilot mental health and being able to continue to fly. So obviously, like I said, this has been a hot button issue. It's been a very, I think everybody would say, a very important issue to be addressed. And UND and the North Dakota legislature is taking a great step to help move all that forward.
Hey, a state we don't talk a lot about, actually. So Elkhart, Indiana is getting 3 little planes. Why is this important? Well, it's a big deal for a lot of young people. Stay Indiana is a nonprofit that operates out of a couple different places in Indiana. And basically, it is a youth volunteer program for youth getting into aviation. So this is both maintenance and flying, which is super awesome. It's all hands-on. So Stay Indiana got donations of 3 air coupes that are going to be part of this program. They just got shipped across the country. What's awesome about this is that these airplanes are going to directly help these kids get involved in aviation, getting a hands-on experience, both in the A&P sector, so getting used to or learning about maintaining and building airplanes, and getting them ready to fly. And when they are ready to fly, they can be flown. So these kids get exposure to both sides of the coin, if you will. All of these planes are actually going to be restored by high school students in this Stay Indiana aviation program. So once those are built, again, they will go fly, which is super, super awesome. This will open a lot of doors to wherever these students decide to go. If they decide to stay in aviation, they can go into the maintenance sector, engineering, mechanics, or as a pilot, which is super, super awesome, especially air coups, which are kind of fun. Badger doesn't like them, but he's wrong. So, yeah.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on.
You said you didn't like them because they didn't have rudders, but they do have rudders.
I didn't say I don't like them. I said...
Whatever.
No, continue.
No. Nobody uses their rudders anyway, so... Rudders. They do! You just can't control them and screw them up.
Okay. Go ahead.
The impact of Stay Indiana is already showing in these students. There was a student that they interviewed who had no idea that aviation was in any way a career path that they could follow, but he's actually planning on becoming a pilot because of this program. So crowdsourcing for any volunteer program is difficult in aviation. It's, 100 times more expensive. So if you have an airplane, you have materials or anything that you want to donate, please find a place like Stay Indiana or another local entity that does things like this, because those materials do make a difference, and that really cuts down on some of the costs that they need to use to get those kinds of materials, get tools and stuff like that. So if you are so inclined, their website will be in the show notes, and if you are not in Indiana or you have a local place, please consider donating.
My airport, the Capitol Drive Airport, identifier 02 Charlie, is hosting a hamburger fly-in on Wednesday, June 4th at 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. You can see my plane on display. And by on display, I mean they needed to move it out of the hangar so they have room for picnic tables. So it'll be on the ramp.
So it's not like a static display with the cork board that gives all these dimensions, numbers of birds hit, all that stuff?
Nope, they just need room in the hangar. So so that's that one. Are you a
bird strike ace yet, by the way?
Not yet. We're getting there.
Okay, sorry, carry on.
And then I'm going to try and make it as well, and hopefully everybody else will too, on Sunday, June 8th, the Dodge County Airport identifier uniform, November uniform, is hosting a pancake breakfast fly-in. Juneau, as well as Mayville and Hurricane, were hit by an EF2 tornado about a week after I had flown there. And so even though the flying isn't necessarily a benefit for the post-tornado stuff, there were some hangars impacted. I'm sure they'd love good attendance there. So if you guys could make it there too, that would be great.
I think that now is the end of the news and events. And it's time to get into the meat and potatoes of this episode.
Yum, yum.
So, your Badgerness, would you like to do the introductions?
I would.
I've been trying to find a way to use that term tonight, so.
Well, for this episode, we are very excited to welcome Alyssa Miller, who in only 3 years has racked up almost 1,000 hours of flying. She has a technology background we might dig into a little bit, and recently started taking up helicopter flying as well. And a lot of that time has been built doing humanitarian flights, and so that's going to be the bulk of what we're talking about tonight. So welcome, Alyssa.
Hey, thanks everybody. Happy to be here.
You totally missed a golden opportunity to say hack into her background. Sorry. I just wanted to say that.
I think, in fact, Alyssa, you don't have to confirm or deny this, but we didn't even send you a link to join this podcast studio. You just hacked it.
Pretty much. Yeah. Badger kind of let me out in the wing there, so, I found my own way.
Fair enough. Well, you've listened to the podcast, which we greatly appreciate, by the way. You're one of our patrons and all that jazz, so thank you for your support.
Of course.
But you know what's coming next, and it is the Fast 5 questions. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
I will preface this by saying typically I create the Fast 5 questions. I didn't this time, so if you don't like them, it's Badger's fault.
You'll get no argument from me when you say blame Badger. So.
Love it.
Perfect.
If Hollywood made a movie about your aviation journey, who would play the part of Alyssa?
Oh, God. I can't think of her name from, she's the mom from Taken as well. I can't think of her name, but I've had 5 people now tell me I look like her, which is weird to me, and I cannot think of her name now, and it's so making me angry.
To the internet.
I know, right? How did I forget this already?
I don't know, I'm doing some Googling.
It's a very interesting name, too. which is really driving me nuts. What's her name? Oh, Famke Jessen.
What?
I don't know who that is.
Okay.
No, I didn't either until people started telling me that it looked like her, and I was like, okay.
Why don't I recognize her?
What is her name? Funky? What now?
Funky Butt Lovin'. I think that's from that one movie. What is that movie called?
I have no idea.
Have you not seen that movie? It's the
Direction I wasn't expecting.
It's the kid in the... We're so off the rails already.
We just started.
It's some kid who...
I feel like this is my fault.
It's Badger's fault. It's a kid who steps on a baseball. He hurts his shoulder, and he can throw like stupid fast, and he gets into Major League Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
But when he's at the
Major
doctor, that's not
No,
Major League. That's something else.
No, Major League's... No.
Because when he brings his hand forward and he smacks the doctor in the nose, the doctor's funky.
It's like he's got this weird, it's like a really short snap throw kind of.
Yeah. Yep.
Big League? I don't know.
Let's get this train back on the tracks, Badger. All right, Alyssa, question number 2 in our fast-ish 5 questions. Bucket list airport to log a landing.
Ooh, there's a lot. But if I had to pick one right now, and I feel this is so cliche, I hate to even say it, but I will anyway. It's Catalina Island.
Valid.
Catalina Island.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's like everybody's bucket list to land at, but yeah, there is something cool about landing on like a a pinnacle like that on top of an island.
They've got a great wine mixer, too. Question number 3.
My God.
Here we go with this again.
It's the night of terrible movie puns from Jim. Question number 3. Which made you more nervous? Your first airplane lesson or helicopter lesson?
Oddly enough, probably my airplane lesson, just because I didn't know what it was all about. Whereas helicopter is kind of like, okay, I'm going to go take a discovery flight. And, I wasn't nervous until he started flying me around and doing things that airplanes can't do and realizing this is kind of wild.
I like it. Question number 4. Favorite Midwest destination?
It's a tough choice, but I'm going to go with, I'll go with Mackinac Island.
Oh, I like that one. That is one of my bucket list airports to land at.
Oh, I've been to that one. That one's it's like mini Catalina because it's not as tall and it's a little easier to land on.
Yeah. Someday soon, I hope. And question number 5: if you could meet anyone in aviation, dead or alive, who would it be?
I am kind of hoping to meet Patty Wagstaff before, and that one just feels dumb because it should be so easy. Just go to Oshkosh. Because you'll find out I've never gone to Oshkosh.
Turns out we got to get Alyssa to Oshkosh.
Yeah. And easier said than done trying to meet people at Oshkosh. Like, if you're intentional about anything, it never happens. And not to curse it or anything.
Yeah.
It's just so hard.
What I've heard.
Several 100,000 of your closest aviation friends, I think. Yeah. I believe we need to kidnap Alyssa for Oshkosh. Just putting it out there. Well, thanks for playing along with our Fast 5 questions. Maddie, would you like to take it away into our interview?
Sure. Well, Alyssa, for the people who don't know you, our lovely listeners, tell us about yourself. What got you into aviation? Tell us a little bit about your aviation background so far.
So I grew up, as I said already, 47 years in Wisconsin. Most of those were spent growing up in Milwaukee. And I lived about less than a mile from Timmerman Airport. And so, as a little kid, you're out in the backyard, they're flying patterns over the top of the house, or you'd be driving down Appleton Avenue and they'd be landing on what now today I know is runway 22 right, which puts them about 35 feet over the top of the car. So that's kind of fascinating as a, little kid. But, my parents didn't come from money or anything. I don't come from money. So it was never really seemed like a thing that I could do. 16, I started talking to an Air Force recruiter. Interesting note, by the way, for all the kids out there, when you tell your Air Force recruiter, oh, I'm going to be a teenage parent, they stop calling. They can't figure out why. But
that's rude.
Figure out why. So that killed the idea of joining the Air Force. as you know, I think we'll probably end up talking about, Badger mentioned in the intro, my background's in tech. I work in cybersecurity. And so as I kind of got established in my career, that's why I found out that like aviation and flying was like, you could be a pilot and not like be trying to get into the airlines, which I didn't know. I mean, I really just legitimately didn't realize that this is just something that everyday people do as well. But now, I'm married, kids, all that happy stuff still wasn't kind of in the cards. So about, what would that be? Well, you said it before, I guess. It's a little over 3 years ago. I'm looking at life and I'm working a really good job. I'm divorced. All my kids are out of the house now. It's like, it was kind of a now or never sort of, maybe a little midlife crisis thing too. But, hey, if I'm going to do this, I got to do it now. So I started training. Didn't initially intend to buy a plane or anything. I just kind of wanted to get my certificate and maybe rent the plane once in a while. Yeah, that turned into buying a plane and then getting a hangar and then later on getting another hangar. A friend of ours, friend of the show, is not so thrilled that I've found actually now 3 hangars in the time that I've been flying, and he's still on a wait list. I think he said he was number 9 last I heard from him. So,
Good grief.
Yeah, I know.
Your hangar looks lovely, by the way, from the photos I've seen.
Why, thank you. And just shy of 1,000 hours as of actually earlier today. I'm at 987. So,
congratulations.
Probably gonna pass that 1,000 mark here pretty soon. I fly a lot, and no particular like desire to build time necessarily. I just love flying, and I'm very, very fortunate to have my own plane. I live a mile from the airport, well, a mile and a half. So it's really easy for me, and we're go out and grab the plane after work and fly to Madison or Green Bay or La Crosse, which, by the way, La Crosse has the best tacos. Ask me later, I'll tell you where. Just go get dinner after work. And it seems so natural. And, I tell people that and they look at me like I'm insane, which I probably am.
We all are.
So, I mean, that kind of summarizes it. I just, working on the helicopter rating. I got my instrument rating last year, upgraded the plane with a bunch of super expensive, crazy avionics so that I can fly in the clouds. And, yeah.
So in your almost 1,000 hours of flying, obviously, for most of us, is enough to keep it interesting. But what do you do to keep it interesting? And more importantly, to keep from getting complacent?
Yeah. So I'll definitely say it's never not interesting, right? In fact, the day that it becomes not interesting, I think I just need to quit. But the complacency is a big thing. And I do try to do things to keep it interesting. I've got the Fly Wisconsin passport book. And so, I'm always trying to find new airports to go to and explore, get the stamp, see what's around, see if there's cool places to eat. That's always fun. But, as far as complacency, that's the thing that worries me more. Because complacency is, I think we all know in aviation, it's complacency that kills, right? And that's, I'm pretty happy in the life I'm living right now. I'd like to keep it going a little longer. So it's, it's doing things to keep my proficiency sometimes just going out on those, goofy flights, just floating around. Just this past week, I went up and just did steep turns just for the heck of it. I create little challenges for myself as far as landing, make sure I can still, hit the 1,000 footers right on in case somebody wanted me to do a spot landing. And some of that too is just thinking to the future. If, I go for a commercial or whatever, I'm going to want some of those extra skills. But yeah, I'm always looking for new experiences. I've flown into a couple Bravos just for the sake of doing it. First one, I went up to Minneapolis, landed at their big old Bravo just to go have dinner with my sister who lives probably about 4 miles from MSP. And then to celebrate my birthday 2 years ago, I flew into O'Hare and landed there and went out to dinner with a friend. It's things like that. Just always trying to, what can I do that I haven't done, or what can I do to challenge myself to make sure I'm keeping my skills where they need to be? And then it's, sometimes I think we all do it. We do catch ourselves doing something complacent and silly. And I know you had a video just recently, Badger, on that. Oh, that wasn't a shot. Come on. I actually appreciate that.
We've all left the door open.
I mean, actually, I wish you hadn't said that, because now I'm going to say this and I'm going to knock on wood. I have not done that yet. And I'm saying yet because, yes, I'm sure it'll probably happen. But they happen. I mean, I've, tried to take off with the mixture still lean for ground. Which is fun when you put the throttle full forward and it starts sputtering and popping and you're like, what the hell's going on? And then you realize, oh yeah, we'll push that forward.
Means you lean properly.
Yeah. Oh, it was definitely lean. And those EGTs shot right up. But but those are the moments, right? And you're always happy when it's something little like that to say, hey, dumbass, you didn't run your checklist. Maybe you should pay attention to those, or whatever, or you got distracted. That's actually the one that usually gets me, is I'll get distracted in the middle of the checklist and then come back and maybe I skip 3 items. It happens. And, so it's always about making it a challenge to make sure that they don't happen.
So speaking about the flying part, so you said you do a lot of fun things, and obviously, flying is fun. You do a lot of going for food and stuff like that, which is awesome. I wish I could do more of that. But you also do a lot of humanitarian flying, or like public benefit flying. So could you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh, gosh, yeah. So I can also, this is like the 3rd time or 4th time now I'm calling out Badger already, but I can blame Badger for this. It's all his fault. He started it. He got me started. No, but seriously, there's a number of different organizations that I fly for or, have volunteered for. There's 1 or 2 that I haven't actually flown for yet, but it all started with Pilots N Paws. And that was the one Badger introduced me to. He was going to do a flight, asked me if I wanted to go along. Sure, what the hell? Go fly along. We're going to go pick up some puppies and fly them from Mineral Point, Wisconsin to Burlington. Yeah, I still remember the exact airports. I do quite a few Pilots N Paws, which for those that don't know is literally that, just transporting pets, usually dogs, sometimes cats. I saw one the other day. They were transporting bats.
Bats?
I guess it's not just paws anymore. But yeah.
Pilots and claws?
Pilots and wings.
But so anyway, yeah, it's animals that they rescue and they need to get them somewhere else, right?
Okay.
And so that's super cool. There's a few different I don't want to describe them other than call them medical transport, but I want to be careful saying that because we're not talking about evac or emergency, air ambulance stuff, anything like that, obviously. But most people I think have probably heard of Angel Flight.
Yeah.
So the local affiliate up here in the Midwest for Angel Flight is Lifeline Pilots. So I've done a few with them. Their mission is, hey, get someone who needs specialty care at the Mayo Clinic or the cancer clinic down in Waukegan, but they live in the middle of nowhere and trying to get to a commercial airport or find transportation for that care is difficult. So we connect pilots with them and fly them to where they need to get to. A couple others along that same line or similar lines, Elevated Access, which is more focused on people who need either reproductive care that maybe they can't get in their location or who need gender affirming care that they can't get in their location for whatever reason. Helping them get to where they need to go. Freedom Aviation Network is another one. That one I actually have not had the honor to fly a flight for them yet, but I get their alerts, and if they have one in my area, I will. But they specialize in just getting people out of trafficking situations. And then there's a new one starting up here in Milwaukee. I don't even know if I should mention it, but I'll mention it. It's called Uphaven. And they're just getting started. They're working very specifically with some specific hospitals and whatnot not quite as generalized as some of the others, but again, transporting kids who need special care. And I'm actually, and then can't forget Operation Airdrop. That's the last one that I'll kind of mention. Just, their specialty is disaster relief. But the thing that I really like that they do, and I'm trying to say this without getting on my soapbox about it, is their mode is they get in right away. They're there for the first 3, 4, or 5 days until FEMA gets there, and then they get the heck out, right? And the reason I stress that is, we might have a first responder on this show or listening to this show maybe who understands the concept of taking control of the scene when you arrive.
Sure.
And I think this is what we saw during Hurricane Helene when a bunch of people were complaining about, FEMA's taking all the supplies we brought and they're not letting us fly into places. And it's like, well, yeah, because now they're there. It's their job to take control of that scene.
Sure.
So, but what Operation Airdrop does is they go in before any of that's there. They organize with people on the ground, so they make sure they're not dropping supplies in places that it's just going to sit out and go to waste like we saw in Katrina. And that's why I choose to fly with them in particular for that type of mission.
So is there something specific with humanitarian flying that draws you?
Yeah. I mean, there's two things. So first of all, we as pilots, private pilots, whatever, we are some super privileged people, right? We get to do a thing that only, I think it's 0.1% of the population of the United States gets to do. And that is sit behind the yoke of an aircraft and control it through the skies. And for those of us who are even more fortunate to own our own aircraft, right? That's like a lot of really cool privilege. And for me, one of the biggest draws is being able to take that privilege and do something good with it, right? It's not just the hobby of going out and doing $100 hamburgers, multiple times a week or whatever. It's not just about going sightseeing or, flying up to Mackinac Island and hanging out for a weekend. I can make a cool, positive impact on somebody else's life, something they'll remember for the rest of their life, and that to me, that's a huge draw, right? And the other part of it that kind of then is related to that is it also just gives a mission to what you can do as a private pilot, because otherwise, let's face it, private piloting is really just sightseeing, $100 hamburgers, fun stuff, whatever. But when you can actually give it a purpose and a mission, it's nice to have that sometimes too. And so, yeah, that's what drew me in. And then, puppies. Puppies. Come on.
You say puppies, and there's Piper just hanging out with Maddie now.
On schedule.
Piper,
She has been summoned. Oh, are you going to stay here for a little bit? Okay. Cute.
So obviously puppies win the cuteness award for some of your missions, but is there any particular mission that stands out as being particularly rewarding?
It is hard to pick, right? Because each one has its own special memory to it too. And that's, obviously part of it. I'll give you two stories that I remember really, really clearly though. The first was last year doing the Operation Airdrop missions for Hurricane Helene. One of the first airports we flew into was Ashe County. Little northwest of Charlotte. And it's up in the mountains. And if anyone's familiar with Courchevel, it's kind of like that, maybe a little less extreme, but it's an uphill runway. And uphill to the point that you land one direction, you take off the other. It doesn't matter what the winds are doing. So that alone, it was a really interesting, neat, and honestly challenging approach. I'm not a mountain flyer. I live in flat Wisconsin. And so, it was that, and I'm landing on this interesting uphill, coming in on an instrument approach, the whole 9 yards. But what I really remember about it was the people, right? So you land, we pull it onto the ramp, and these people, I've still got the pictures that they took with us, and they were the ones that wanted the pictures with us. And, the one woman there who was just in tears, the guys who were there were just amazed. And of course, when two women hopped out of the airplane, they thought that was pretty cool too, because you guess you don't see that every day either. But yeah, so that particular flight during that week stands out to me. The other one is a girl that I flew from Pontiac, Illinois up to the Mayo Clinic. It was actually my first Lifeline Pilots mission. And I found out later, has some really super rare form of lung cancer. And so that's why she needed to get to the Mayo. And it just landing at Rochester Airport. And first of all, the Mayo Clinic has their own FBO essentially. Now, we don't go into that because we're not air ambulance, but we land going through Signature. But even at Signature, like these people, they know because they see these people flying these missions in all the time. And just seeing the care that people gave to this girl all the way along. So it wasn't just me as the pilot picking her up in Pontiac and flying her up to, Rochester. It was the people at the FBO. There was a person there that met her to, transport them to the hospital and stuff. And it was just like, that really stuck out to me. Like, okay, this is what it's all about.
So you talked a bit about the hurricane mission. I'd like to talk a little bit more specifically about that. So
sure.
When a mission like that happens, like you're talking about, you guys got in there, you're in there the first handful of days, FEMA shows up, you get out. Mm-hmm. So how are you guys like spun up for that or activated, for lack of a better term, to do those missions? And like, what does the organization look like to make that happen?
It's like all the others. You sign up in advance. Right, you sign up in advance of anything happening. So whether it's Pilots N Paws, Lifeline Pilots, whatever, you sign up, you're on their roster of volunteer pilots. And they all have different ways of handling it, but when they have missions to fly, they send communication out. Now, a lot of them, it's like, hey, they'll put the missions up and they'll say, pick your, you can apply to take this mission or whatever. With OAD, it's a little different, Operation Airdrop. It's a little different because obviously it's go now. So they have a text group that they send messages to. They also send emails, and it's, they send you a lot of the details. But the very strange part of it that we learned is they don't necessarily, when they tell you, we need you to come help with this, they don't necessarily have the logistics worked out yet. So we were literally on our way to North Carolina, not knowing exactly where we were going.
No kidding.
They hadn't figured out, when we actually took off from Sheboygan, they hadn't even specified for sure yet which airport it was going to be. We were landing in Lexington, Kentucky. We knew we'd have, that's where we were going to find out exactly where. By the time we got there, they had it all worked out. They had a hangar at Concord, and we knew where we were going. But all night that night, we ended up staying in Lexington because it got dark and flying over the mountains in the dark and IFR conditions. That's kind of 3 strikes. I wasn't going to try that.
Yeah.
So we stayed in Lexington for the night. Through the course of the night, they were emailing. We were getting more and more emails about, all the logistics for the next day. Initially, they thought like we might have to, there wouldn't be people at the airports that we were going to be landing at initially. But then they were able to make ground contact with people, so they knew we'd have people there waiting to take the supplies from us. And so then it was, well, if you're bringing supplies, make sure you stop on the way before you get to Concord, because there's no point in flying all the supplies into Concord just to fly them back out.
Sure.
So we did that. We stopped in Greenville, was the first place we stopped on our way to Concord, and then flew in. But so it's massive. It's a huge operation. It's a lot of people with text messaging, emails. You name it. We have the contacts for all the people that are going to be on site. And then you get there and it's just a massive operation. Like they have this giant hangar with supplies that they were getting donated. They were actually literally going to the local Walmart and buying supplies with donated money.
Wow.
The ground operation itself is like super impressive. So, and then you get there and then they just, you tell them how much you can carry, and they have pallets already weighed out. With a Cherokee, it was actually less about the weight and more about, how big is 200 pounds? Cause that's going to fill up my back seat and my luggage space pretty fast. But they get the supplies in your plane. They tell you where it needs to go and you go.
What can you tell us about like the support roles that you see at the airport that non-pilots are like involved in with these?
So I mentioned, all these pallets. Well, there's people there literally putting those pallets together, right? And they're trying to build them with different amounts of weight in mind. So you've got a ton of people who are just moving around, getting all the different forms of supplies together. You got people who are inventorying them, trying to figure out, well, what do we need that we don't have? Do we have enough diapers? Do we have enough this, that, or the other?
Sure.
Some of that's based on PIREPs coming back from the pilots. So you would land at whatever airport, and the people would say, hey, this is great, but we could really use some towels, right? And towels actually was a big one. So by the way, next time you hear of one of these, if you want to donate something, donate towels, because people, after their homes get flooded, don't have towels and they want to take showers. So you got people doing that. You have a lot of just the general volunteering of people running out, and like I said, there had people going to the local Walmart and shopping just to get other supplies because they had they were getting money donations, and then you had the people who were just coordinating between pilots and loads and saying, okay, you're ready to go. How much do you want? Which plane will bring it out to you? And then you had the loaders who would bring it out and they'd load it in your aircraft for you. So there's a lot going on in that space, and a lot of things that, even if you're not a pilot and you just want to come help, there is a ton that you can be doing day in and day out. And those people were incredible. I mean, they were working 12-hour shifts each day and just busting their butts to make sure that, we kept planes moving in and out all day long.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's got to be just a massive undertaking, just not just the pilots, but on the ground too, to organize the logistics of all of that.
So getting back into the flying aspect of all of this controlled chaos, I know you had some stories that you told me on the side about just how busy some of these airports were flying in and how, potentially chaotic and hectic it got. What are some things that you do to mitigate some of those risks? And do some of these organizations actually recommend or even require some things?
Yeah. So one that they definitely recommend, and I will tell you right now, I would never do one of these OAD missions without, is have a second person. Bring a co-pilot. I ended up going down there with my my CFII. So, I had already completed my instrument rating. I had, I think at the time, about 15 hours of actual. And so, she and I are the ones that went down there together. And I'll tell you what, just having somebody who you can, do some true CRM with, someone who can run the radios while you're flying the plane. I mean, the whole time we're in and out of IMC, right? And the other thing, and I know this was covered kind of ad nauseum on that other podcast, Friends of the Show, Opposing Bases, they covered it, how immensely busy air traffic control was. Right?
Yes.
And so, I mean, in particular, there was one poor sector of Atlanta Center. They were just demolished with people. I mean, there were so many planes in the air. You know how people look at FlightAware for Oshkosh? I think EDSB Exchange Order, I think you still go back and look at that area around Concord, back around this time last year, right after the hurricane hit. And it's crazy, the number of planes. But so for that reason, and there's the other thing I would recommend, is we were IFR every time. A lot of people were going out. A lot of people were taking off VFR and then trying to get IFR in the sky. That was tough. But they were doing that because it was hard to get a release out of Charlotte, which, we're at a class Delta in Concord. So air traffic control is doing all they can to try to get, releases for IFR traffic, but you're under Charlotte. You've got one runway. So, I mean, there's only one piece of concrete there. So you've got landing traffic operating at the same time as departing traffic. And I mean, they had some big lines to get out, but if you took off VFR, you didn't know if you were going to get your IFR. It was that bad. VFR flight following, almost non-existent. I know a number of people, we were hearing them on the radio, right? They'd call up to Atlanta Center and ask for flight following, and Atlanta Center is just unable. And that was it. So it meant we had to probably sit longer. It was probably harder for us to get out each time because they needed to get us a release. But I wouldn't have wanted to be up in that airspace without, talking to air traffic control and having them really taking care of us and making sure we had separation and those types of things. So it made it a little harder, but absolutely worth it because, it was tough flying. You're in the mountains. It is a lot of in and out of IFR, and I don't know why you'd want to try to do that VFR.
Obviously, that's crazy. Disaster relief is really probably very stressful, but also, just a lot going on for an extended period of time. Is there a shift in mentality that you have, like, for instance, flying a patient to an appointment, at Mayo Clinic, as opposed to something like this? Like, what are some of the differences that you see having operated in both scenarios?
Well, the obvious one that I kind of mentioned already is just the busy airspace, right? It is, being out there, it was absolutely crazy. I've never heard of that kind of like GA response to anything. Mm-hmm. People always go in and help. There's always lots of people. This is the first time I can ever remember there just being this massive response from general aviation. And it wasn't just Operation Airdrop. There were a bunch of different organizations organizing similar response. So, from that perspective, that changes it quite a bit. I think the big thing for me, though, is the get there itis can be 10 times worse in that scenario, right? It's bad enough, and this is something I can't stress enough, how challenging get there itis can be with any of these missions, even when it's just flying rescue puppies or just, picking up somebody who needs to get home from, treatment or whatever. It's tough enough to fight it with those. But when you're in this setting of everybody's going in and out, in and out, in and out, and you see planes maybe doing things that would be a stretch for your minimums, there's a lot of pressure there, right? So it's not just the pressure of delivering supplies. It's not just the pressure of, that, there's a lot of people out there to be helped, but it's even seeing other pilots do things that you would look at and be like, I'm not sure I would want to do that, but, so how do you start kind of mentally processing that in your head? And that's like the indicator, right? Okay, I need to stop right now. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big difference. But I said, look, when we get out there, it's going to be tough. If you're uncomfortable with anything, or if I'm uncomfortable with anything, either of us has the ability to immediately call no-go. And no questions asked. We've got to both understand we're equals in this. And if either of us says no-go, it's a no-go. And you need to check me on my get the itis, and I will do the same with you because we know it's going to be hardcore. There was actually a moment where I was like, I did something and I was comfortable with it, but she wasn't. And she point blank said, I'm not comfortable with this. We can't do this. I said, all right, we'll stop. We'll do something. We'll do this a different way. And, and that's what you want. That was a big difference as well for that.
And I think this is a good time to mention, too, I know I've found, and Alyssa, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my experience has been all of these organizations, I've only flown for Pilots N Paws so far, but they're very good about working with you with your limits, and especially, if you're a VFR pilot, it's an IFR day, they're not going to ask you to fly. They have contingencies in place for all of these, where if you have to cancel, they have a backup plan ready to go.
Yeah, that's a big thing you have to remember too, is with the exception of, again, and I guess this is another way that the airdrops are a little different. There obviously there's not like a backup per se, right? It's just, but there you just have to remember there's 200 planes on the ground at Concord. Somebody else will take it in there. Mm-hmm. If you're not comfortable, but it's the same way. Yes, with Pilots N Paws, Lifeline pilots, any of the ones that I fly for, they all have the same rule. And that is the passengers are told in advance, or the rescues are told in advance, you need to understand this is how general aviation works. Pilots have the final say, and if they say it's not safe, it's not safe. And, for all the medical ones, it's have a backup plan for how you're going to get them there. As a pilot in those scenarios, it's important to remember that all the passengers, everybody involved understands that, and there's no reason to press it.
Yeah, better the delayed than not here anymore.
Exactly.
If someone wanted to learn more about public benefit flying, are there websites out there that they can go to that has information on multiple organizations, or do you got to kind of pick and choose based on what's out there?
So, yeah, there are organizations. The big one, the easiest one to find out about a lot of them in your area is go to the Air Care Alliance. And I think it is just aircarealliance.org or something like that, but Google it. You'll find it. They are a broader organization that organizes the individual organizations. And so what they also do is they provide a lot of guidance and things to those individual organizations. And I know this only because I've seen the same information now come from like multiple orgs that I'm going to fly with. And they're all part of Air Care Alliance. So I'm pretty sure it's all coming from there. But, you know, this Air Care Alliance is at least nationwide. They might even be broader than just the U.S. And they do help organize all of these various, aid organizations and volunteer pilot organizations is actually what you would call them, VPOs. So they help bring all that together. One of the things that Air Care Alliance does too that's really nice is they actually have an ICAO registered call sign. And so for those of you who are familiar with like ForeFlight, you can go into ForeFlight and get a ForeFlight call sign. Well, you can get one from Air Care Alliance that you use when you're flying missions for an Air Care Alliance partner. And, and in theory, it gets you, and I think I've seen it work a couple times where it does get you a little bit of preferential treatment from air traffic control. They recognize it because the call sign is going to be Compassion 1234 or something like that, Compassion Flight 1234. And so each pilot can register and get their own call sign. And so that's, a cool side benefit to be able to do that. But they've got tons of them listed. I think I looked at my area in Wisconsin a couple weeks ago, and there were at least 10 organizations listed. Obviously you can go to the sites for any of these. You can search on the web to try to find different ones. They're a little harder to find that way. But generally, if you reference volunteer pilot organization, that'll get you a lot of results pretty easily.
So, Maddie, do you think it's about that time?
I think it's about that time. So, Alyssa, you've heard the podcast before. If you listen to the end, you know it's coming. What is your aviation unpopular opinion or hot take?
I should have thought about this beforehand because I should have thought about the fact that it was coming. That's actually the look, by the way, was like, oh crap. I didn't really think about this because I have a lot of hot takes. I'll give you one. And this is oddly specific, but I know it all
oddly specific ones.
It really pisses pilots off when I say this. And unfortunately, some of my thunder's been stolen now because I think there is a YouTuber out there who's kind of pushing similar, but his is a little different. Okay. This whole freaking concept of I'm going to overfly the field and make a teardrop entry to the 45 of the left downwind for runway XYZ. Stop it. It is the dumbest maneuver they teach you in any pilot instruction that I've seen so far. Why would you make a 270-degree turn where for the bulk of the turn, you are going to be belly up to all the traffic that you want to be able to see before you enter the pattern? Why would you do this? Make the direct entry. It is also in the aim, just like the infamous teardrop entry, but you're belly up for a 45-degree turn instead, and you're going belly up to a space that you've already been able to see. You go in there and you make this grandiose, I'm going to fly 2 miles past the airport and come back around, and now you're making this huge sweeping belly up turn where you are belly up to the entire pattern. I think that is the most unsafe maneuver that they teach, and I don't understand why they teach it.
I can understand people, what grinds my gears though? People who do it wrong and then become extremely dangerous. Yeah. That's what's really scary.
Yeah, they're doing like a steep turn into the downwind.
Yeah. It's like, okay, time to die.
That's what Jason Miller's video is about.
Yeah. Oh, that's so scary. I've seen people do it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've never been that person.
That's what Jason Miller's video was. He was like, first of all, it's not a teardrop.
Yeah.
you need to be going 2 miles past the airport. Like, it should be back there behind you quite a ways.
You were maneuvering,
and I
for
feel like that's
45.
at least, that does help.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at it that way. Yeah, because that way then it becomes almost like you're just doing the 45 direct entry from the pattern side of the field, which is what you want.
Yeah, you get the benefit of overflying the field and looking at what's going on, and then you fly out and can look at the whole. That's my take. You can look at everything, and as an instructor, having to make sure my student is watching what they're supposed to watch, and chaos. It actually gives them time to think and time to plan a little bit, especially if the winds are shifty or whatever, and then they can kind of maneuver to come in. Is it the safest? We'll see. Everybody's got their opinion on it. So
the other one, ask me about my feeling of touch and goes sometimes.
Oh, that's a spicy one. I like that.
Now think in terms of ideals you're taught as a private pilot. You're taught things like we say, time to spare, go by air. Don't take shortcuts, don't do whatever, right? To me, the touch and go is the only place in instruction that we teach somebody a maneuver that has no practical applicability to actual flying. And we do it solely for the purpose of breaking all of those rules. We do it to save time, to maximize, the amount of flight time they get, which I understand that. Flight time's expensive, and you get to teach them more in a lesson. I understand it, but when you think about a touch and go, there is nothing you teach them in that touch and go that is actually applicable to normal practical flying, because the techniques are not the same as a go around, and that's where it actually can become dangerous. We've seen some crashes because of that. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating we shouldn't do touch and goes. But I'm just saying we do have to acknowledge that the touch and go is a thing that we do that flies really in the face of a lot of the rules that we set as pilots about not taking shortcuts, not trying to save time, blah 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 blah. Because that's exactly why we do them. Because there's nothing else you do there that you're teaching that they would practically apply elsewhere, and I think we should spend more time teaching them go-arounds than we do touch and goes.
Fair enough.
I think those are the spiciest takes we've heard for a long time. I feel like most people have been pretty tame with theirs.
We've been pretty safe lately.
I'm not shy about my opinion.
That's okay. The reason we have it is because sometimes it ges really inflammatory and fun. So,
Alyssa, we can't thank you enough for coming on and talking about your experience with humanitarian flights and spicing things up in the aviation world. And we'll have to have you back sometime so you and Maddie can get in a debate about pattern entry.
It could be a whole episode.
I'm here for it anytime.
All right. Well, thanks again to Alyssa for joining us on the podcast and telling us about her adventures flying and her humanitarian efforts, flying helicopters, and just what it sounds like to be an awesome pilot. And Alyssa has been kind enough to stick through the intro and the outro, so she's still here listening to the garbage fire that is us trying to put an episode together.
Yeah. Great description. Great description. From her interview, though, I thought it was really cool listening to not just like the flying parts of it, but all the stuff that goes into some of these humanitarian flights in the background, the organization, the people on the ground making things happen, but also just how pilots can come together in such short order to make big things happen. And I think she said it pretty well that, we're privileged to do what we do, and to be able to give back like that is really cool. So kudos to you, Alyssa, for all that you do in aviation with the humanitarian flying you do.
And it's awesome. I really want to get involved with humanitarian stuff once I have, a little bit more cash after being a CFI. Holy buckets.
Well, and all your free time.
Yeah, for real. And this is just inspiring me to do it more and more. So,
well, hey, as we mentioned at the start of our podcast in this episode, the merch page is back up and running. The website's all fancy and updated. So go check out flyingmidwest.com. And if you're looking for merch specifically, flyingmidwest.com/merch. You can find stuff for all the different brands under the Flying Midwest banner. that being the Badger Pilot channel, Air Exploration on YouTube, as well as this podcast and the Fly the Transition podcast. So anything that you're able to do to help support us in that regard is much appreciated.
You can also join the conversation by joining us on Discord and Patreon. Patreon is our way of being able to put the show together. I know it sounds low budget, and generally it is, but it still is. There still is a budget to the podcast, and so being able to offset some of the costs with your support on Patreon is incredibly helpful. But if you're cheap like me, you can do what I do and join the Discord server, which is completely free. And the best way to do that is to email us at flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com and let us know you want to be a part of the Discord, and we'll send you a link so you can join the conversation where we talk about things like impromptu meetups where we're going to go meet somewhere for dinner and just fly together there. Lots of sharing pictures of Midwest destinations and just sharing our experiences and the joys of flying in the Midwest. And you can also...
T-shirt ideas.
What's that?
And T-shirt ideas.
And T-shirt ideas and solo show ideas and other ways to just be involved, whether you want to be in the forefront, like being a guest, like Alyssa, who's very active in our Discord as well, or in the background, like just suggesting show ideas and T-shirts.
I feel like you missed another golden opportunity there to say, if you don't want this to be like such a low budget,
Oh my God, so true.
consider giving more.
Yeah.
You're so right. Yeah, help us become slightly less low budget.
Slightly
Joining
more
our Patreon.
legitimate.
But no more professional.
Absolutely not. That is not part of the deal. You can't buy professionalism.
Speaking of being unprofessional, one of my co-hosts has a not a cry for help, a plea for action.
Yeah, typically we call that a call for action in the biz, as we call it. But I just wrote, plead for ratings and reviews. So one of you needs to do that.
Please rate and review 5 stars. You can say whatever you want. We'll read it. But please rate us 5 stars. Please. I hope that never sees the light of day. Can I redo that?
No, that's it.
You can redo it, but it's going to see the light of day. You know that.
That's true.
Well, thanks again to everybody, as always, for joining us on another riveting episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. And until next time,
See ya.
See ya. See ya.
see you!
Flight 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35. Good day.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.
That was a train wreck on my part. I apologize, guys.
It was all a train wreck. What are you talking about? The only good part was the interview with Alyssa. The rest of it was just hot garbage.
Like, that was kind of a train wreck move. Man.
We were never on the rails for this, and that's okay.
There's my sing.
In the middle of June is the special let's try that again.
I don't want that color. Oh, what happened? Where'd it go? Oh, jeez. So much. Oh, what's happening? Make it stop.
This better be in the bloopers.
It's. We are recording, so.
I know.
Hold on, I gotta get the right color here. I like the purple. That wasn't bad.
Purple's nice.
How's the
Very
blue?
K-State.
How do you feel about the blue here? No one's gonna see this but us. Who cares?
Indiana today. So Elkhart, Indiana is certainly a place. Let's try that again.
Do we just need to start
No.
over?
No.
Nope.
That happens to Badger a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Just start over.
That's one of the better intros you're going to get out of me, so we should just
We should
send
just
it to
stick-
Jim for the Fast Five.
I'm just not very close to my keyboard. Stop!
Relax,
And now I
it's so
can't
much
read it
fun.
because you guys your little icons are everywhere. Stop it! God. Twice.
This is coming from the person who, on the April Fool's episode, kept putting spaces and new lines in to move an entire article off of the page on Badger while he was reading it.
That one's funny and you know it.
It was hilarious.
But that was April Fool's.
It was.
We're 2 months later now.
It's May.
We're
Okay.
fools every day.
This is true. That's so true. You're so right.
Is
Start
there?
recording.
Do you hear a hissing noise on my end?
It's all in your head.
No,
No.
It's air
Okay.
leaking out of your ears.
you're
Does
going
the
crazy.
non-existing. Yeah. Does the non-existing noise get any better when I?
When you drop things?
What, are you playing Plinko over there or what? Oh, what happened? We're gonna go. Oh, jeez. So much. Oh, what's happening?